a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Joe Paterno. Joseph Vincent Paterno, sometimes referred to as JoePa, was an American college football player, athletic director, and coach. He was the head coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions from 1966 to 2011. With 409 victories, Paterno is the most victorious coach in NCAA FBS history. His career ended with his dismissal from the team in November 2011 as a result of the Penn State child sex abuse scandal. Paterno was born in Brooklyn, New York. He attended Brown University, where he played football both ways as the quarterback and a cornerback. He had originally planned on going to law school, but he was instead hired in 1950 as an assistant football coach at Penn State. He was persuaded to do this by his college coach Rip Engle, who had taken over as Penn State's head coach. In 1966, Paterno was named as Engle's successor. He soon coached the team to two undefeated regular seasons in 1968 and 1969. The team won two national championships. In 1982 and 1986, Paterno coached five undefeated teams that won major bowl games, and in 2007 he was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame as a coach. During his career, he led the Nittany Lions to 37 bowl appearances with 24 wins while turning down offers to coach National Football League teams that included the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots. After the child sex abuse scandal involving his former defensive coordinator Jerry Sandusky broke in full in November 2011, Paterno announced that he would retire at the end of the season. However, on November 9, the Penn State Board of Trustees rejected this disclosure and immediately terminated his contract. An investigation conducted by former FBI Director Louis Freeh concluded in July 2012 that Paterno concealed information relating to Sandusky's sexual abuse of young boys. The investigation also uncovered information that Paterno may have persuaded university officials not to report Sandusky to authorities in 2001, a critique of the Freeh report composed by Dick Thornburg, a former U.S. Attorney General and Pennsylvania governor of the law firm King & Spalding, which was commissioned by the Paterno family, disputed Paterno's involvement in the alleged cover-up and accused Freeh of making unsupported conclusions. Freeh called the critique a self-serving report that does not change the facts. On July 23, 2012, the NCAA vacated all of Penn State's wins from 1998 through 2011 as part of its punishment for the child sex abuse scandal. The association eliminated 111 of the games Paterno had coached and won, which dropped him from 1st to 12th on the list of winningest NCAA football coaches. In January 2013, State Senator Jake Corman and State Treasurer Rob McCord launched a lawsuit against the NCAA to overturn the sanctions on Penn State on the basis that Freeh had been actively collaborating with the NCAA and that due process had not been followed. As part of the settlement, the NCAA reversed its decision on January 16, 2015, and restored the 111 wins to Paterno's record. Paterno died of complications from lung cancer at age 85 on January 22, 2012, only 2 months after being fired by the university. Early life. Paterno was born December 21, 1926, in Brooklyn, New York, the son of Florence de la Salle Cafiero, a homemaker, and Angelo Lafayette Paterno, a law clerk. His family was of Italian ancestry. He spoke throughout his life with a marked Brooklyn accent. In 1944, Paterno graduated from Brooklyn Preparatory School. 6 weeks later he was drafted into the Army during World War II. Paterno spent a year in the Army before being discharged in time to start the 1946 school year at Brown University, where his tuition was paid by Busy Arnold. In college, Paterno was a member of Delta Kappa Epsilon fraternity. He played quarterback and cornerback for the Brown Bears, and he shares the career record for interceptions with Greg Parker at 14. Paterno graduated as an English literature major in 1950 and had been accepted into Boston University School of Law, which he had planned to attend before deciding to coach at Penn State. Although his father asked, "For God's sake, what did you go to college for?" After hearing of his career choice, Paterno joined Rip Engle as an assistant coach at Penn State in 1950. Engle had coached 5 seasons, 1944-1949, at Brown. Paterno was promoted to associate coach, the top assistant, in June 1964, and when Engle announced his retirement in February 1966, Paterno was named his successor the next day. Coaching history. Paterno had one Heisman Trophy winner, John Cappelletti, who earned the award in 1973. Paterno's abbreviated 2011 season was his 62nd on the Penn State coaching staff, which gave him the record for most seasons for any football coach at a single university. The 2009 season was Paterno's 44th as head coach of the Nittany Lions, passing Amos Alonzo Stagg for the most years as head coach at a single institution in Division I. Paterno was known for his game day image, thick glasses, rolled-up dress slacks, white socks and Brooklyn-tinged speech. Reflecting the growth in Penn State's stature during his tenure, Beaver Stadium was expanded 6 times during his tenure, increasing in size from 46,284 in 1966 to 106,572 in 2001. In 1995, Paterno apologized for a tirade directed at Rutgers head coach Doug Graber at the end of a nationally televised game. Paterno was accused of making light of sexual assault in 2006 by the National Organization for Women, which called for his resignation. Though Penn State later categorized this incident as being taken out of context and never seriously considered asking for Paterno's resignation, Penn State football struggled from 2000 to 2004, with an overall 26-33 record in those years, and Paterno became the target of criticism from some Penn State faithful. Many in the media attributed Penn State's struggles to Paterno's advancing age. He had no apparent plans to retire, and contingents of fans and alumni began calling for him to step down. Paterno rebuffed all of this and stated he would fulfill his contract until it expired 2008. During a speech in Pittsburgh on May 12, 2005, Paterno announced that he would consider retirement if the 2005 football team had a disappointing season. "If we don't win some games, I've got to get my rear end out of here," Paterno said in a speech at the Duquesne Club. Simple as that. Penn State finished the season with a record of 11-1 and were champions of the Big Ten in 2005. They defeated Florida State 26-23 in triple overtime in the 2006 Orange Bowl. Penn State faced a litany of football players off-the-field legal problems, which included 46 Penn State football players facing 163 criminal charges dating back to 2002. A total of 118 of those charges were dismissed or not proven, according to an ESPN analysis of Pennsylvania court records and reports. In 2008, ESPN questioned the control that Paterno and the university exerted over the Penn State football program. ESPN produced and aired an ESPN feature Outside the Lines that covered the subject. Paterno was criticized for his response when he dismissed the allegations as a witch hunt and chided reporters for asking about problems. The Pennsylvania State Employees Retirement System revealed Paterno's salary in November 2007, $512,664. He was paid $490,638 in 2006. "I'm paid well, I'm not overpaid," Paterno said during an interview with reporters Wednesday before the salary disclosure. "I got all the money I need." Bowls and championships. Joe Paterno holds an official NCAA total of 18 bowl victories. He holds the NCAA record for total bowl appearances with 37. He had a bowl record of 24 wins, 12 losses, and 1 tie following a defeat in the 2011 Outback Bowl. Paterno was the first coach with the distinction of having won each of the 4 major bowls, Rose, Orange, Fiesta, and Sugar, as well as the Cotton Bowl Classic, at least once. Penn State won at least 3 bowl games in each of the 4 decades that Paterno coached, the entire decade, from 1970 through 2009. Paterno led Penn State to 2 national championships and 5 undefeated, untied seasons. 4 of his unbeaten teams won major bowl games, and were not awarded a national championship. Under Paterno, Penn State won the Orange Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Liberty Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Aloha Bowl, the Holiday Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Outback Bowl and the Alamo Bowl. After Penn State joined the Big Ten Conference in 1993, the Nittany Lions under Paterno won the Big Ten Championship 3 times, with the last 2 of those still awaiting official restoration to the record. Paterno had 29 finishes in the top 10 national rankings. Posthumous findings. Former FBI Director Louis Freeh and his firm, including a team of former federal prosecutors and FBI agents, were hired by the Penn State Board of Trustees to conduct an independent investigation into the scandal. In the opinion of writer Michael Sokolov, the mission Freeh was given seemed to presuppose that Sandusky's crimes were not his alone and that people who had reason to suspect him had looked away. After interviewing over 400 people and reviewing over 3.5 million documents, the investigation team reported that Paterno, Spanier, Curley, and Schultz concealed Sandusky's actions in order to protect the publicity surrounding Penn State's celebrated football program. Freeh's firm's investigation found that by their actions, the 4 men failed to protect against a child sexual predator harming children for over a decade. The report concluded that Paterno, along with Schultz, Spanier, and Curley, concealed Sandusky's activities from the Board of Trustees, the university community and authorities. Email uncovered by Freeh's investigators included an email chain between Curley and Schultz regarding a previous incident between Sandusky and another child in 1998 that the district attorney declined to prosecute after an investigation by State College Police and an evaluation by the Department of Public Welfare. On May 13, 1998, in an email captioned, "Jerry," Curley asked Schultz, "Anything new in this department? Coach is anxious to know where it stands." Curley testified more than 19 years later in the 2017 criminal trial against Spanier that the coach who wanted to know where it stands was Paterno. Before a grand jury in 2011, Paterno had testified that he was unaware of any possible child abuse by Sandusky prior to 2001. When Paterno was asked, other than the 2001 incident that Mike McCreary reported to him, whether he knew of any other inappropriate sexual conduct by Sandusky with young boys, Paterno testified, "I do not know of anything else that Jerry would be involved in of that nature. No, I do not know of it. You did mention, I think you said something about a rumor. It may have been discussed in my presence. Something else about somebody. I don't know. I don't remember, and I could not honestly say I heard a rumor." Freeh's team also discovered a 2001 email from Curley about the subsequent 2001 incident in which McCreary witnessed Sandusky with a boy in the Penn State showers. On February 25, Curley, Schultz, and Spanier decided to have Curley report McCreary's information to the State Department of Public Welfare. On February 26, Curley had a conversation with Paterno. On February 27, Curley emailed Spanier and Schultz that he was having trouble with going to everyone but the person involved. Curley, Schultz and Spanier then agreed to report the incident to both the Department of Public Welfare and the Second Mile if Sandusky did not cooperate and get professional help. In his press release, Freeh wrote to the contrary that the only known intervening factor between the decision made on February 25, 2001 by Messrs. Spanier, Curley and Schultz to report the incident to the Department of Public Welfare, and then agreeing not to do so on February 27, was Mr. Paterno's February 26 conversation with Mr. Curley. This was widely inferred by the press to mean that Paterno had persuaded Curley not to report the incident to authorities outside the university. In addition, the Freeh report said that even after Sandusky's retirement in 1999, Paterno, Schultz, Spanier, and Curley empowered Sandusky to attract potential victims to the campus and football events by allowing him to have continued, unrestricted and unsupervised access to the university's facilities and affiliation with the university's prominent football program. Sandusky's access was part of the retirement agreement between the university and Sandusky. The university will permit you to use, at no charge, a locker, weight rooms, fitness facilities, and training room in the East Area Locker Room Complex. This benefit will continue for the balance of your lifetime, and, for a period of 10 years commencing July 1, 1999 and subject to renewal upon concurrence of both parties, you will be given an office and a phone in the East Area Locker Room Complex. The agreement was signed by Curley and Schultz along with Sandusky on June 29, 1999. Following the release of the free report, Nike Incorporated removed Paterno's name from the Joe Paterno Child Development Center, a child care facility at the company's headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon. Brown University, Paterno's alma mater, announced that it would remove Paterno's name from its annual award honoring outstanding male freshman athletes, and stated his status in the Brown Athletic Hall of Fame would be placed under review. On July 14, 2012, The New York Times reported that in January 2011, Paterno opened, surprise, negotiations to prematurely end his contract with an additional $3 million early retirement payout, prior to public knowledge of the scandal. Although his contract was not up for negotiation until the end of 2011, Paterno initiated negotiations with his superiors to amend his contract in January 2011. The same month he was notified of the police investigation. By August 2011, Paterno and his attorneys had reached a deal with the PSU board for a total package worth $5.5 million, including a $3 million cash payout, forgiveness of a $350,000 interest-free loan issued by the university, and the use of a private box at Beaver Stadium and a private jet for 25 years, if he agreed the 2011 season would be his last. Ultimately, the board rejected Paterno's offer to resign at the end of the 2011 season, but faced with hate mail and a threat of a defamation lawsuit by Paterno's family, it agreed to give Paterno and his family the $5.5 million package, which included additional perks for the family, including the use of the athletic department's hydrotherapy facilities by his widow. A lawyer for the family claimed that the retirement package was proposed by Penn State. After the free report's release, critics called for the removal of the Joe Paterno statue outside Beaver Stadium. A small plane towed a banner over campus, reading "Take the statue down or we will." After some days of mixed messages, the school removed the statue on Sunday, July 22, in front of a crowd of student onlookers. The statue was reportedly put in storage. Spanier's successor as president, Rodney Erickson, said the statue had become a source of division and an obstacle to healing, but made a distinction between it and the Paterno Library, also on campus. On July 23, 2 weeks after the release of the free report, the NCAA punished Penn State with some of the most severe sanctions ever handed down in the history of collegiate athletics. Penn State was fined $60 million, stripped of 40 total scholarships from 2013 to 2017, banned from postseason play until 2016, and vacated all 112 of its wins dating back to 1998. This included the removal of Paterno's last 111 wins at Penn State, dropping him from 1st to 12th on the all-time wins list. The NCAA reported that Penn State's leadership failed to value and uphold institutional integrity, breaching both the NCAA Constitution and Division I rules, and that the NCAA intended to remediate the sports is king culture that led to failures in leadership. The NCAA report harshly criticized Paterno for his role in an alleged cover-up of Sandusky's crimes, saying that Paterno, Spanier, Schultz, and Curley had demonstrated a failure of institutional and individual integrity. Although this action was outside the normal process for investigating major violations, the NCAA said this action was merited because the alleged cover-up violated basic principles of intercollegiate athletics that were over and above specific policies. In a September 2013 interview with the CBS show 60 Minutes, Sandusky prosecutor Frank Fina was asked if he believed Joe Paterno was involved in the alleged cover-up. Fina stated, "I do not, and I'm viewing this strictly on the evidence, not any kind of fealty to anybody. I did not find that evidence." Pennsylvania State Senator Jake Corman and State Treasurer Rob McCord filed suit against the NCAA in January 2013. arguing that a $60 million fine should be kept to assist victims of child sexual abuse in Pennsylvania, instead of allowing to be spread to programs beyond the state's boundaries. On January 16, 2015, the NCAA agreed to a settlement, removing the probationary period imposed on Penn State and restoring Paterno's 111 wins between 1998 and 2011. Corman proclaimed, "Today is a victory for due process which was not afforded in this case. Today is a victory for the people of Pennsylvania. Today is a victory for Penn State Nation." Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?